I need to talk about something which I feel has been going kind of under the radar. I need to talk about Crusader Kings 3 and its development diaries. To be clear, this video isn't going to be a rage video, although I am upset, but rather it's going to be a constructive criticism on the recent state of Crusader Kings 3 and its abysmal development cycle. I don't have a particularly high bar. As a fan in the truly fanatic sense of the word, I will pretty much always be playing CK3 for better or for worse. I'm the guy that got every achievement in one 30-hour sitting, and yes, I know that guide is outdated, but I'm waiting for the next batch of achievements to come out so I can do another guide. That actually leads right into my point. Where's the content? I want to line up the dev diaries going as far back as number 93 and talk about how things have degraded since the Fate of Iberia diaries. Diaries 93 through 98 are the examples I want to use as good diaries. Well, when I say good, I mean more like informative or purposeful. I'm not here to comment on if the diary's contents are good or not, but I want more to comment on the existence of the content. Diary 93 is essentially an overview of what Fate of Iberia is going to be, showing bookmarks, a new mechanic, some new clothes, a new religion, new cultures, and a new map for Iberia. This is definitely what I'd call content. It's an overview which doesn't go deeply into any aspect of the then upcoming DLC, but it does build up some hype and get people theorizing and thinking. I can't think of any person who would be against this dev diary, and you can see this reflected in the comments with basically complete positivity. To me, Diary 93 is a solid diary that provides content to ponder without being overly long or short, and which I was satisfied to read at that time while I was waiting for more content. The same can be said for Diary 94, which was a more in-depth look at the main feature of Fate of Iberia, the struggle. I appreciate seeing the new UI elements and the explanations of the mechanics in written form. There was plenty of text breaking things down, with art to boot. I particularly appreciated the future use section, which talked about how this flavor pack wasn't just a one-off contribution, but which could be a base for a new mechanic in the game. This really builds up the hype and communicates transparently. Again, take note of all the positivity in the comments on the diary. People like the transparency, and they like the ideas that were presented. I want to highlight as well how so far we've had mostly mechanically focused diaries, which I think is good. In general, mechanics keep the game alive, given that without new mechanics to mess around with, the game gets stale relatively quickly. That of course isn't to say art doesn't matter, because we've also got Diary 96, which is all about the look of the clothes and artifacts. I love the 3D models they show and all the behind the scenes stuff. While this sort of thing isn't my focus, it being there is important for the parts of the community which appreciate the more aesthetic aspect of the game. Me personally, I always play too fast to even notice these kinds of things, but I would be up in arms if it weren't there. If you're a CK3 dev diary reader, you might be starting to see where I'm going, but allow me to finish up with the Fate of Iberia dev diaries. Diaries 97 and 98 are both again good. They follow the same pattern as the others I've gone over here, with one being mechanical and the other being art-based. The content shown was interesting and the text informative. This all led up to the actual release of the DLC, which is marked by Diary 99. This is the only lazy diary, but I use air quotes for that because in reality this is a diary concluding the development of a DLC that came out on the same day as the diary. If there's ever a time to have a diary which doesn't cover much content, this is the one. Even with that said, this diary released the HRE clothing DLC and provided some assurance around bug fixing. In theory, this diary is lackluster, but I think we can all accept a DLC release day being a moment to breathe, so I definitely won't hold it against anyone. Now, regardless of your opinions on Fate of Iberia as a DLC, given its mixed reviews, the development diaries were exquisite for this DLC. Each week, a diary with a solid amount of content, both mechanical and artistic, was available, and the goodwill in the community was quite high. I personally enjoyed Fate of Iberia, although I had huge problems with the struggle mechanic and its railroading. To me though, if every DLC had this kind of dev diary skill, I'd be quite happy. I don't think anyone will disagree with that. Now let's talk about the diaries from 100 up to 116, where we are now as of February 23rd, which is when I'm writing this. First of all, note how this is 16 diaries worth of content. Let me go over what each diary talked about, and you'll begin to notice an alarming pattern approaching. So with 100 we got the conclusion of the Royal Edition content for CK3. That means if you paid extra for the effective Season Pass for CK3, you're done now. You got everything that Season Pass afforded you. In terms of content, this diary discussed the upcoming 1.6.1 patch which is being made to fix some of Fate Iberia's DLC bugs, and add some more flavor, like the Guanche culture and religion, as well as adding events to do with Sephardic Jews in Iberia. Alongside that was the West African feudalization button. While this certainly isn't like the introduction of a new DLC or anything particularly hype, I'm more than happy to accept a dev diary right after a release of a DLC that isn't a big announcement. Not every diary can be full of content. The stuff added here is something, and I'll take it. For Diary 101, we get our first egregious post. This diary has nothing of any substance in it whatsoever, except announcing the CK3 beta program, where fans get to dedicate their time for free to test the game. I'm not inherently against beta testing using people in your audience, since I think it can be quite effective. It's cheap and it gives players something of a voice. But my god, I'd expect this sort of thing to be pinned at the bottom of an actual diary, or at least have more text discussing the way it works and the intentions behind it and so on. Maybe I'll be charitable and say they wanted to be concise and not confuse anyone. Sure, we can do that. I'll let this one slide. That brings us to 102, which was a bug fixing patch. This is completely acceptable, since bug fix patches are of course necessary. Although keep in mind, it's now been 3 weeks without any word on any new content. Certainly not too alarming, but you know, maybe a hook to get caught on would be nice. Something to keep me looking forward through the sea of somewhat lackluster diaries. Okay, 103 continues to disappoint with the summer break diary. Devs need breaks, no one's going to question that. Some people might want devs to crunch, but I can accept that they have lives, so I will also give this one a pass, although once again, nothing has been said about any sort of new content or any teasing or anything like that. This diary came out on June 28th, and the summer break lasts well into August, so that means there's now a 2-month gap of time with no diaries. Keep that in mind when considering player patience by the time we get to Dev Diary 104. With 104, we did actually get some content. This stuff pertained to how the AI is being changed to play the game with more skill, and a quite nice change to the Mongol Empire. Previously, the Mongols were basically completely inept and never did anything of note, but now they actually are quite the scary force. As well, the splitting of the Mongol Empire was added so that there can be actual Mongol successor states. A very welcome change. Beyond that, the AI changes are nice, I suppose. The AI will now defend people of its faith during Holy Wars, which is something which was broken since release. Kind of completely unacceptable that it took this long to patch, but that's Paradox for you. Is it a bug? Is it a feature? Will we fix it in a DLC? You never know, really. The rest of the AI changes took them from being entirely pointless as opponents to just being a light bump on the road, but I'm willing to dismiss that assessment on the grounds that I am probably in the top 5 people for this game in terms of skill. If I'm even going to try and be humble, I'm definitely not your average player. Still no mention of any new content upcoming, by the way, and remember, it's now been about 3 months. With 105, we also get some minor content in the form of memories and a new UI for friends and enemies. This is fine. Memories don't do anything besides let you reflect on your character's actions. That's all good, and quite honestly, this I consider to be a good dev diary. I know I'm ragging on these recent diaries, but sometimes something good comes up, and 104 and 105 have been pretty okay. With the previous diaries about Fate of Iberia, there was a sense of direction and hype around each thing. For these diaries, it's more like, oh, okay, so that's coming now. And all the changes have been extremely minor, if not irrelevant. With 106, we finally get some kind of content announcement. This is the proper announcement of Friends and Foes, which is the newly dubbed event pack. Now keep in mind, this diary came out on September 6th, meanwhile Friends and Foes came out on September 8th. It's pretty clear that this is a relatively short-term development cycle. Now, regardless of what you think of a $5 DLC for what amounts to some new events with text you'll probably never read, this DLC marks a couple changes in the game. We've got Memories as a new mechanic, and we've got... oh wait, that's all we've got. That's literally it. The AI was updated to be more competent, and some game balance changes were added through changing factions and vassalization requests. Okay, damn. That's not much given that it has been now 4 months since Fate of Iberia. Keep in mind, that's 4 months not just without any meaningful mechanical changes, but 4 months without even an idea of what's coming. No announcement about the next DLC, and I sure as hell don't count Friends and Foes as a next DLC, considering it had a grand total hype time of maybe 2 weeks. Oh, I forgot House Feuds. Yeah, it's not even really worth discussing. House Feuds suck. The question becomes, would these dev diaries have been acceptable if the content they showed was actually good? I put forward that no, they would not be. These diaries are significantly different than Fate of Iberia's diaries. Consider that in the Fate of Iberia era, each dev diary either explained a mechanic or showed off some art. This was a form of hype building and gave a sneak peek as to what to expect. The diaries for Friends and Foes are almost entirely small UI changes, with the few mechanical investments pegged on at the end as afterthoughts. Look at where House Feuds are in Diary 106. They're the last part after showing off some new artifacts and some new events coming with the event pack. I do not consider new artifacts and new events to be on the level of The Struggle or the 3D models of new clothing. This is clearly a lesser detailed diary. There has been no tangible change to the game, and the player base is lost as to what to expect. Notice how this diary is where questions about patch notes are starting to crop up. Some people are beginning to lose their patience with the lack of actual development happening here. I'm not trying to insult the Friends and Foes developers, because I'm sure coming up with all those new events is an undertaking, but we cannot pretend that it is anywhere close to the undertaking of the other dev diaries from before the summer break. With 107, we get another patch notes diary. Still no new content, now 7 diaries deep, with the summer break of 2 months in between. I will be charitable and say that 106 was released on September 6th and 107 on September 8th, so there was less of a waiting time than we might have seemed. Okay, so we got bug fixes. Great. Bugs do have to be fixed, so I acknowledge that. Nonetheless, kinda feeling content starved right now. I'm glad Paradox is fixing the broken stuff they released, but when's the new stuff coming? Now, Diary 108 was quite the tipping point in the community. This was the diary where basically Paradox threw their arms up in the air and said, well, we don't plan to do anything else this year. This is the beginning of what I like to call the for now phenomenon. You're going to be seeing this sort of illusion to hype happening for every upcoming dev diary. Notice statements like additional clues about what we're working on might appear over the next few months. Key emphasis on the ellipsis. Also, that charity from before about how 106 and 107 less of a gap, yeah, that's gone because 108 came out 2 weeks after 107. Oh, and guess what? 109 came out another 2 weeks after 108. Also, all those bug fix patches still haven't fixed everything, as at this point with the Bastion update, the game still has huge bugs, which we see reflected in the comments section. Diary 109 was actually pretty intriguing. It may have actually been one of the finest examples of a section of writing that felt like it meant something while simultaneously having exactly nothing to say whatsoever. This diary felt like the musings of a dev, primarily in the sense that it meandered and discussed all sorts of ideas but no actual plans. The main takeaway, sorting through all the chaff, was that they intend to do 4 things each year. The 4 things for 2022 were Royal Court, Northern Lords, Fate of Iberia, and the as of that dev diary unreleased patch, Robe, which we'll get into once we get there. The interesting thing was that this diary actually worked in terms of getting people to feel hopeful for the future. After all, such transparency is rare for any long-term game development cycle. This diary outlines what the devs are thinking and where they want to go. The thing is, by simply vomiting out a ton of ideas without actually picking any of them to tell us they're going to do, I read this and thought, well hold on, what are you working on? I appreciate the look into the development philosophy here, but I want to know what's coming, not what could be coming, or might be coming, or has a chance of maybe happening. Notice this allusion again to the for now phenomenon. Lots of could be's and might happens. Before going to Diary 110, I want to actually step back and highlight one thing. These diaries, so far from 100 to 110, aren't as awful as it might seem based on my rhetoric. To me, the Fate of Iberia diaries are like a gold standard, and these ones are something akin to a silver standard. They're a little less content heavy, and they don't discuss much, but they have some stuff in them and are serviceable. I was disappointed in these diaries, but not upset by them. I was waiting for more content, but I was okay to let Paradox iron out bugs, and spend some time getting back to the flow of things, adding in mostly quality of life mechanics, and experimenting with an event pack. Experimentation is important. I know this is a YouTuber, so I'll forgive. Diary 109 was released on October 4th, and Diary 110 came out on October 25th. That is a 3-week gap, and what do we get? Dude, I can't make this up. After meandering and mostly sitting around with mediocre at best dev diaries, we wait 3 weeks for a dev diary that discusses how great Paradox's CK3 team is. Now look, I'm all for a little self-aggrandizement. I like it when devs feel confident and want to show their pride in what they've made. My dude, what have you made since June before you took the summer break? You made an event pack and some UI and quality of life changes. The road patch isn't even out yet. Could you at least wait until the patch you've been spending the entire last quarter working on to come out before you write a passion piece about how cool your dev team is? Especially after a 3-week wait, I was quite bothered by this diary. I thought it might have been a situation where the diary would come out and then a couple days later we get another one with actual content similar to the Friends and Foes diaries from before, but guess what? Diary 111 comes out on November 22nd. That's right, a month later. Diary 111 is the Robe update. This update added some new art, and again changed the UI of the game for the better. Mechanically, it added one extremely specific change to Zandaka Muslims who can submit to a caliph, which in my time playing the game I've never seen an AI do, since Zandaka Muslims are a rare sight in the game. Beyond that, the saved custom rulers was a great addition, but again just quality of life. No new mechanics of any interest, and still no announcement about upcoming content. The road patch was nice to have, and I won't act like I didn't like the patch. I would consider CK3 to be in the best state it's been since release currently with the road patch, but that does not excuse the continued lack of any content. It feels like these dev diaries are meant to appease people. They're saying something akin to, I know we stopped making dev diaries, but trust us, we're working. Look, see, we took a month to create this diary about how we added in a UI change and one obscure mechanic. Now be patient and wait for the real stuff. I've been patient, Paradox. I'm waiting. It's almost March now and I'm still waiting. Let's finish up the newest diaries. With 112, we finally got a diary in a timely manner with only a 2-week wait time. That's still 2 weeks, while the Fate of Iberia diaries all had only 1 week between them, but whatever. I guess you've lowered my bar to expect monthly diaries, so now I'm blessed by 2-week diaries. This diary did exactly nothing besides summarize the year's events and add a small mechanic around nicknames. Now, if you mouse over a nickname, it'll say how the character got that name. Wow. Legendary addition to the game. Still no announcements about the upcoming content, and no, I don't count the floor plan since it didn't say anything specific that's next in line. Saying the next expansion focuses more on the roleplay aspect of the game is not enough for me. To even call the nickname stuff a mechanic is dubious, since nicknames don't affect anything besides the aesthetic of the game. I will concede that aesthetics matter though, so fine, we'll call an addition to the game. Anyway, it's time for the winter holidays, so we won't be seeing Diary 113 until January 17th. That's a month and almost 2 weeks. My god, what a wait that was. Again though, I will excuse devs getting vacation time because quite frankly, crunch culture is garbage and I will not condone it. For this reason, that gap is acceptable, and for that reason only. So with Diary 113, we do actually get a content announcement. Wow, it only took 6 months for it. What's the announcement? Oh, of course, it's an event pack. Keep in mind, by the way, this event pack is not meant to come out until after whatever the upcoming expansion is releases. We still don't know what the expansion is about. This diary was another experiment, allowing the players to vote on what pack they want. I approve of this honestly, so good job Paradox. The problem is that the only thing this diary had in it was the poll. The diary was just an announcement of a poll with a brief overview of what these event packs cover. That leads us to the absolutely insulting Diary 114, which was simply an announcement of which pack won the poll. It took 10 days for this next diary to come out, and I was pissed about this. Can we please get some content in the diaries of any substance? Diary 114 does nothing besides say who won. Come on, dude. Another 10 days later, we get Diary 115, which is an art diary. Okay, cool. Looks like some content, right? Oh wow, the Canterbury Cathedral and some bridges. Now look, 3D models are hype. I completely agree. But I want to pull back to those Fate of Iberia diaries. Remember how the clothes and artifacts were there, and I mentioned that it's not my kind of thing since I'm mechanically oriented? There were other diaries that did quench my thirst for mechanical implementations. That's why I was okay with it. Here, I'm not okay with it because all we have are these 3D models and nothing else of any substance whatsoever. Nothing here at all. I will say, it was at least something. It was better than announcing a poll winner or patting yourself on the back for the whole diary. It didn't take a month and a half to come out. Fine. Like an abused housewife, I'm just happy when I come home and I only get yelled at a little, I guess. Diary 116 will surely fix up my mood with its amazing mechanical explanations and cool new ideas. Maybe they'll even announce a name for the DLC finally. It's been a long time without anything coming, and it'd sure be nice to get an idea of what's coming. Oh. Oh dear. It's a goddamn riddle.
They played us like a damn fiddle!
By this point, I'm done. I saw this diary and knew I had to make a video. This comment sums it up perfectly. I get the joke, but it feels like there isn't really the goodwill for it at the moment. Hope the next dev diary comes sooner rather than later. Yes, you're damn right there isn't the goodwill for it. With the most recent diaries having been abominations of diaries, I am certainly happy to see the devs acting like people are willing to sit around and solve their riddles to try and figure out what the DLC is about. There's some murmuring in the comments about regencies. My god, if the next DLC only adds in regencies, I'll be very upset. I expect something much bigger than a single mechanic. I'm not sure what to expect since Paradox has set up nothing for me to cling to, but just know that so far, your attempt to lower the bar more and more to make me happy with whatever pittance you're willing to throw my way will not work. I say that, but I know my bar is already lowered, since I now expect a dev diary once a month, whereas I used to expect one once a week. It's very frustrating to know that CK3 is an absolutely amazing game, but one which seems marred with hubris and sloth. I want to really emphasize the term seems here. I don't know what's happening with the CK3 team, and I will never attack any dev because I know that won't help anything, but when I see such a tiny effort on the part of these dev diaries, my mind will jump to laziness. For example, those diaries that did bug fix patches, we all know those diaries are important because bug fixing is extremely important, but it's also the bare minimum. What I expect in terms of development cycles is something like DLC announcement, diaries about the DLC, the release of the DLC, bug fix and balance patches, repeat. I feel like we've been stuck in the bug fix patches section, but in reality it's mostly just been lip service additions to the game and meandering, empty, pointless diaries. I complained about Royal Court when it came out. I complained about Fate of Iberia. I didn't like the lack of depth in those DLCs. I didn't like the lack of depth in all of these DLCs so far, but I've been more than happy to continue supporting Paradox because I believe in the vision, as they talked about all that time back. Where's the vision, Paradox? Let me use your eyes and see what you're doing. I once felt I saw the vision, and felt like I was being led by a shepherd to the light, but now everything is dark, and my shepherd taunts me. I've been reduced to scraping for hope from the barren floor of the Dev Diary comments section. Where is my shepherd, Paradox? Or are the blind now leading the blind? Part of me wants to open my eyes, but I fear that what I see might be too painful. Is this hubris that I see from the CK3 team? I sometimes reflect back on the Royal Court pre-release discussions I had on stream. I had so much hope back then, out of respect for the people who gave me a game that changed my life. When I was a teenager, I played CK2, and I didn't know anything about developers and Dev Diaries and all that, I just knew I loved the game. There was never a DLC that came out for that game that I felt disappointed to see. That can be perhaps chalked up to my lack of standards as a 13-year-old, but I also believe that DLCs for that game genuinely revolutionized the experience with each release. The only mechanic I was extremely happy with that had been introduced by DLCs or updates was the cultural traditions, hybrids, and divergences stuff that came with Royal Court and its update. Beyond that, ranking adventures are pretty cool. The Coat of Arms designer should have been in the game on launch. The ability to change title name and color should have been on launch. So many things should have been available on launch. The AI being abysmal at the game and now just being atrociously bad instead is a bare minimum. Saving custom rulers is a nice quality of life, but it does not rejuvenate the game in any way. Am I ready to throw in the towel and lose my hope? Not quite, no. That will be determined when the next DLC comes. If Paradox hits a home run, I'll happily fall back in line, and even if they don't, I might just slink back in, since CK3 is such an important part of my life. Either way, the vision is fading in my eyes and I need it to come back. These diaries have filled me with despair, and I only ask that those old diaries with all the interesting mechanics and content come back. I only ask that we not wait a month for a dev diary that says nothing. I only ask that Paradox continues making good CK3 content, because if they don't, then I fear something terrible might happen. I fear CK3 will go the way of Imperator if the community stays upset. I mean, look at the reviews in these DLCs. The highest rated DLC is Northern Lords, and since that DLC, each one has progressively gotten worse. If the next DLC continues that trend, we might have another EU4 Leviathan on our hands. I might have to go and play EU4 to scratch my grand strategy itch, and I really don't want to play that game anymore, since my favorite part of CK3 is all the character and story, and EU4 has none of that. I'd have to play roleplay EU4 multiplayer or something, and my god, if that were to happen, I might be cursed to never feel the touch of a woman again. Contrary to popular belief, women actually do play CK3, but EU4? Maybe a few? EU4 multiplayer? No. EU4 roleplay multiplayer? Never. Anyway, this is where I'll leave things in your hands, dear viewers. What do you think? Are you okay with the Dev Diaries these days? Are you upset? Are you not? Do you care? Do you like and subscribe? Do you think I'm fear-mongering? Do you wish I'd stream more? Do you play EU4 for like 5 minutes and then quit and go play CK3 it's a better game? I think it's really important to have patience for complicated games like these, but my patience is wearing thin. I've been with Paradox for a long time, and I do not want CK3 to die so young when it could live the long life of CK2. I'm hoping that this video does not inspire doomer emotions, but instead inspires us to look at the devs like guides. No one wants CK3 to fail, and quite the contrary, we all want it to succeed. I believe that part of achieving success is complaining when things are not right so that devs can hear it. To you Redditors or forum posters out there, do not become CK3 simps nor become CK3 haters. Instead, seek to criticize that which is bad and praise that which is good. Show the devs that you're in this with them and that you believe in their project. It helps no one if all the feedback they get looks like Ludi's comment section. It helps no one if we hate on everything they make. I still believe in CK3, but let this video mark the day that I declared the next expansion, whatever it is, to be my line. If this next DLC is not a solid entry to the game, my belief will be gone and I'll wander this earth blind with no Paradox Shepherd. That, or I'll just start playing Elder Kings 2 or go back to CK2. Thank you for listening. I hope the light of the Shepherd might come to all of us in the near future. Thank you for your time.